On May 14, 1948, the modern state of Israel was born. The following day, Arab forces from Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Egypt, and Transjordan invaded the former Palestinian Mandate. Since 1948, Palestine and Israel have been embroiled in ongoing conflict. They've experienced the 1967 Arab-Israeli War, the 1973 Arab-Israeli War, 2 Palestinian intifadas, and most recently the Gaza War. To this day, skirmishes, violence, missile fire, and attacks continue to be perpetrated by both sides. In spite of numerous UN resolutions on the matter, including one as recent as December 2016, there has been no final resolution to this almost 70-year conflict. Today, I intend to examine the possibility of a 2-state solution as a resolution to this conflict and present the key arguments and assumptions of those who are both in support and against such a solution. Understanding and analyzing the conflict and its possible resolution, as well as the views of the players involved, will be vital to the construction of an achievable solution to this conflict. Those who are not in favor of an immediate 2-state solution diagnose that the problem with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the perpetual violence. Additionally, these people believe that a big part of the problem is the refusal of Palestinian leaders and people to accept peace. In supporting their diagnosis of the problem, they look to past failed negotiations, the words of Palestinian leaders, and the beliefs of the Palestinian people. Palestine has refused official offers for a 2-state solution on 4 separate occasions: in 1947, in 2000, in 2001, and in 2008, in spite of multiple concessions and withdrawals of Israeli forces from Palestinian territories. In December of 2016, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas stated that he would not recognize a Jewish state in his address to the Palestinian Congress. In January of 2014, Abbas succinctly explained the problem when he said, quote, "The Palestinians won't recognize the Jewishness of the state of Israel, and they won't accept it. The Israelis say that if we don't recognize the Jewishness of Israel, there will be no solution," end quote. A 2016 poll of the Palestinian people living in the West Bank and Gaza indicates that 67% of these people would not recognize the state of Israel even if it would lead to peace. The opponents of a 2-state solution argue that the problem of violence is closely linked to the problem of ongoing Palestinian hostility. It is also important to discuss the opinions of those who continue to propose a 2-state solution. Both sides have examined the available evidence and have come to different conclusions. Understanding these differences is vital to a full understanding of the conflict. Those who believe in a 2-state solution to be a feasible resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict also recognize that ongoing violence is the key problem in this conflict. However, they believe that a big part of this problem is Israeli crimes against humanity and Israeli occupation of Palestinian land. In supporting their position, those in favor of an immediate 2-state solution argue that Palestinian leaders have demonstrated their support of a 2-state solution if only Israel would stop creating and perpetuating problems. In April of 2014, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas signaled that he remained committed to peace talks, stating that any unity government, including Hamas, would recognize Israel as a Jewish state if Israel would only stop building settlements in the West Bank. On December 23rd of 2016, the UN Security Council approved of Resolution 2334, condemning the establishment of Israeli settlements outside of the 1967 borders as a flagrant violation under international law. A recent report from the UN Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia states the weight of the evidence supports beyond a reasonable doubt that the proposition that Israel is guilty of imposing an apartheid regime on the Palestinian people, which amounts to the commission of a crime against humanity. Many who seek a nonviolent conclusion to this conflict believe that the problem of the conflict is driven by Israeli occupation and Israeli crimes. Given these differences regarding the problem itself, it is unsurprising that there are also key differences of opinion over the causes of the problem as well. Those against a 2-state solution argue that the conflict is fueled by a Palestinian people that is ideologically opposed to a Jewish state. Violence continues with no hope for immediate solution because Palestine is unstable and insecure, and Israel must be able to protect itself. In support of this claim, opponents of a two-state solution once again rely on the words of Palestinians themselves, as well as the unstable political makeup of Palestine. The Palestinian Authority has claimed its right to the whole land of Israel. This means that recognizing a Jewish Israel that would exist beside Palestine would also mean forfeiting their right of return to the land that Israel currently occupies. Palestinian citizens and leaders have been historically hesitant to make this concession. Aside from these ideological issues, there are also several pragmatic concerns that make a two-state solution unlikely. Palestine currently has a fractured authority. Its two separate territories, Gaza and the West Bank, are being governed by two separate authorities. The Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank, is helplessly corrupt and largely impotent without outside support. And Hamas, which governs the Gaza Strip, is an Islamic terror enclave. This causes grave instability and little mutual progress. Because of this Palestinian instability, Israel has been forced to focus its attention on immediate security concerns rather than immediate peace. On the other hand, proponents of a two-state solution adamantly disagree with this position, arguing instead that Israel is the cause of ongoing conflict. Proponents argue that Israeli settlements, Israeli missiles, and Israeli apartheid rule over Palestinians necessitate Palestinian retaliation and perpetuate the problem. Their support comes from the numbers. Israel has built numerous settlements in disputed territories, and Israeli missiles have killed far more Palestinians than Palestinian missiles have killed Israelis. In spite of condemnation from the UN, Israel has continued to build and support its settlements in occupied Palestinian territories. These settlements are home to 600,000 Israeli citizens, which is considered to be illegal under international law. In every armed conflict between Israel and Palestine, the asymmetry has been clear. Israel kills far more Palestinians than Palestine kills Israelis. In Israel's 2012 Operation Pillar of Defense, 167 Palestinians were killed, half of which had not taken part in hostilities. The same report said that only 6 Israelis had been killed in the same time period. To proponents of a two-state solution, Israeli aggression amounts to apartheid rule, and this apartheid rule causes the perpetual problem. Another clear difference between these two sides is how they deem to cure the conflict. Those who are against a two-state solution see no immediate cure to the conflict. Unless Palestine gives up on its ideological opposition to the existence of a Jewish state, brings stability to its own land, and protects its borders and its people, there can be no solution. The support for this position is no different than what has already been provided. Israel cannot force Palestine into a two-state solution that they have already rejected on 4 occasions. Israel cannot lay down its weapons and stop fighting in the hopes of maybe achieving peace. If Israel did so, Israel would be annihilated by the enemies that surround her. Only by eternal vigilance has Israel survived for 70 years surrounded by aggressors. On the other hand, if Palestine brought stability to Gaza, eradicated Hamas, and was committed to protecting its people and its borders, a two-state solution would finally be feasible. They would only have to recognize the state of Israel, and there would be peace. Those for immediate peace deny that Palestine has to do anything differently for peace to be possible. The international community argues that there must be a two-state solution and that its urgency cannot be understated. French President Francois Hollande has elaborated on this view when he said, quote, "Our common aim, which is a noble aim, is that of a fair and lasting peace between the two countries. I am conscious of the reservations and doubts about this conference, but it is urgent to act," end quote. Proponents of a two-state solution argue that negotiations toward this solution cannot be unilateral. They require the involvement of the international community to right the wrongs of the past and bring lasting peace and equality. Both solutions clearly have their merits, and they both also have their costs. Monetarily, there would be no direct cost to rejecting a two-state solution. However, if violence does continue as a result, there are other potential costs to consider. Past violence has resulted in numerous deaths, and future violence would likely have the same cost on human life. Additionally, violence and instability can manifest itself in the loss of gross domestic product and foregoing of economic opportunity. One study indicates that a return to violence could lead to a 46% decrease in Palestinian per capita GDP by 2024, and a 10% decrease in Israeli per capita GDP by the same date. In comparison, a two-state solution would result in immediate monetary costs, but it could also bring about long-term economic growth. A unilateral withdrawal by Israel from settlements in the West Bank would impose large costs on Israel. Relocations of hundreds of thousands of settlers is no small feat. However, it is also true that long-term peace could bring about long-term economic success. A non-peaceful two-state solution could alternatively cost Israel her national security, and therefore millions of Israeli lives. According to the same previously cited study, a successful two-state solution would result in the best economic outcome for both states. In 10 years, Israel could make up to $123 billion in economic gains, while Palestine could make up to $50 billion of economic gains. These two views are clearly very different, as are the underlying assumptions made by each side. A two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has many proponents and many opponents. Understanding both of their views is key to the formulation of a rational opinion on the correct cure to the conflict. Examination reveals that both sides diagnose violence as the key problem, but further identify actions of either Israel or Palestine as another part of the problem. Opponents of a two-state solution tend to shift the blame of ongoing violence predominantly on Palestine, while proponents of a two-state solution shift much of the blame on Israel. Ultimately, opponents of a two-state solution assume Israel's rightful claim to the land and argue that Israel's national security is of the utmost importance. Alternatively, proponents of a two-state solution assume Palestine's rightful claim to the land and argue that Palestine's ideology reigns supreme. As each of you evaluates your position on this conflict, I'd like to leave you with two questions. If Palestine unilaterally laid down its weapons today, do you believe that there would be peace? On the other hand, if Israel unilaterally laid down its weapons today, do you believe that Israel would survive the night?